Aloha and welcome to another episode of Hawaii Farmer Series. I am your solo host today, Justine Espiritu, because our awesome guest is in fact my co-host, Matthew Johnson.
Yeah! Wow, it's totally strange being on the other side of the table.
Yeah! So this is really exciting. Matthew, you are the CEO and one of the founders of Oahu Fresh, which started off as a community-supported agriculture program. And it's kind of blossomed and grown and evolved from there. And I'm really excited. I feel like you kind of touch on so many different aspects of local food here. You're working with not only farmers, but also helping to cultivate another or new generation of ag businesses. So I'm really excited to get to know you even better.
Yeah, I'm excited for you to get to know me too. Yeah, well, thanks, Justine. And yeah, I guess kind of even before I get into Oahu Fresh, I'll just kind of talk a little bit about how I just got into local ag in Hawaii. I grew up outside of Philadelphia. I got out here about 10 years ago. And before I came out here, I was a volunteer in the Peace Corps. And so my background, I went to school for business, and I even went into this IT job right out of college. Just decided that wasn't what I wanted to be doing, working for some large business corporation type thing. So joined the Peace Corps, went to the Philippines, and had an amazing time out there. I was there for about 2.5 years, and my official title was a business advisor.
Okay.
You know, it's like, sounds very like, wow, like I'm 22 years old, I'm a business advisor, and you kind of show up and everyone's like, it was in the small, like, fishing, farming community in the Visayas. And
well, let's stop right there for a second.
Oh.
Did they just kind of throw you into agriculture then, or was that your preference of the kind of realm you wanted to be in, or you were just business?
I was pretty much just going in as a business advisor, so that they're, you know, so when you join the Peace Corps, luckily they don't just throw you out there. They actually have like a 3-month training program. So you go over there with like a batch. So there's probably about like 40 of us. So we go over and we're having some language training and cultural training and having fun, getting to know each other, getting to know, we had host families. And so they're training us some specific skill sets, like how to do like business planning for small groups, but then also just general community development type trainings. And that's really what Peace Corps was all about, because you show up, you're like, yes, I'm a business advisor, and you show up. And you kind of expect having, you know, our mindset of when you have a job, you get a job description. Yeah. So you show up to this municipality, you're working for like the Office of Economic Development pretty much. And like, okay, Matt, do your thing. And 22-year-old Matt didn't really have a thing that was necessarily useful for the municipality, I guess. So that's kind of like the biggest thing you got to wrap your head around is, you know, you're not necessarily there to provide the technical expertise, but kind of help with organizing and community development and figuring out who's doing what and how you can assist. So really a lot of time is spent just getting to know what's happening, what's going on. And one of the things I got involved with was this group that wanted to do some type of business trainings for farmers and fishermen. So that's really kind of how I started going down that path. And it was interesting, when I first started, I was kind of like had that, you know, American, like, I can do anything kind of attitude. And so I was going on and conducting these trainings myself, and I thought I was like good enough in the local language, and I wasn't. And so I was just kind of like trying to get through this, and everyone's like kind of politely nodding. And then afterwards, they're like, hey, so what did you guys learn? And like, we couldn't understand the word that guy was saying. So what got really cool was then start bringing in people from the community to kind of help with different parts. So I actually got the accountant from the municipality to start doing the section on accounting. I was like, yeah, why am I doing this the hard way? So it just kind of started going that route.
That's cool. It's not necessarily about coming into a community with your own plan, but kind of seeing what's going on, seeing who are kind of the leaders in the different realms, and then kind of helping them coordinate and get into that. So, and then you actually extended your
I stayed a little bit later to actually train the new batch of volunteers coming in. And so a lot of it was kind of focusing on that whole concept. because you have people coming in who are like engineers, like, yes, I'm going to come in and I'm going to build toilets all day long. It's like, well, that may not be what is actually needed. So that whole concept of international development, it's a huge issue, and there's a lot of issues around like USAID, and whenever there's any type of disaster, there's always this battle about trying to figure out what's best for the community.
Mm-hmm. So then how did you end up coming to Hawaii and then kind of bringing that experience here?
Yeah, so after I finished up in the Philippines, I went back to East Coast, and I was just kind of trying to figure out my next thing, and I really couldn't figure out the next thing, so I was just looking online for some jobs on Craigslist, and there's a position with a nonprofit called Resource Conservation and Development, and it was managing an agricultural grant program. So it was a project manager. So I applied, and super lucky and fortunate, I was able to receive the job before moving over here, and decided that this is what I was going to do. And it was super crazy because my roommate from college, Mark, who I think is watching the show right now,
Hopefully.
hopefully, he is from Aiea. So it was great. I was able to get in touch with him and his family when I moved over here, and they took me in, and then the job I was working at was actually on Aiea Heights Drive, so it was like...
Okay. So it sounds like it was a cool job. So then when was the point when you saw that there is something missing in the community that you kind of wanted to take initiative and say, this is lacking, I think I have a good idea to fill that void?
So the job I was doing, it was a nonprofit that was affiliated with USDA. So it was really kind of a cool concept where it's a private public partnership type thing. We have a nonprofit able to do nonprofit type things, leveraging federal resources. That was kind of the whole idea. So I was able to learn a lot about different federal programs. So if you're familiar with like Farm Bill, everybody hears about Farm Bill, but then the actual programs are there to support small farms. Everything from economic development funding for ag projects, value-added projects, marketing type stuff. And so I got to learn about all these programs, and I just never was really, feel like weren't able to kind of leverage those resources as well with where we were at. And that's where I kind of came up with this first idea of being a consultant and helping farms access different federal programs. And then also range from like state programs. And so that was kind of like the first thing after working for the nonprofit I started doing, was working with farms, helping them develop their business ideas, and then being able to connect that to actually getting it funded through applying for a grant.
Okay.
And that was a lot of fun, where you're able to like, have an idea, and then you go through the whole process of putting together an application, and then having that application funded is really cool.
Cool. So it's similar to our last guest, the idea that there's lots of resources and support out there, and the farmers, maybe particularly here in Hawaii, kind of need to learn what those are and need to be aware of them.
Yeah, it was like what Jason was talking about from USDA. The programs are very bureaucratic, and a lot of just federal jargon, and also too that they're developed in Washington D.C. and doesn't necessarily fit well with the type of farming that's happening here in Hawaii. So that was kind of what I was working on doing, is helping bridge that gap. So it's kind of like, if you're the farm, you have the idea, focus on that, develop the idea, how is this going to help you in your business? And then I would kind of fill out whatever regulations and paperwork and stuff needed to be done, and put it in a way that I knew the feds wanted to see.
Yeah.
And so it's a neat partnership.
Yeah, again, because farming itself, and then again with the marketing, is farmers have to deal with so many things, and then this like bureaucratic paperwork. If you do get the funding and the resources, it's hard to kind of build up your capacity to take that on. So kind of let farmers focus on what they do best and kind of partner with others.
Yeah.
So what about then in terms of, you kind of build up that capacity, help farmers expand, help them bring up production or these special projects. And then what did you see happening in terms of who was consuming the products, or this idea of Oahu Fresh started as a CSA delivering to residents. So you still saw kind of a disconnect of where was local produce going at the time?
So the neat thing about the stuff I was doing with the grants, introduced me to a lot of different farmers around mostly Oahu. So that's where I was really able to learn about what's happening and what the challenges are in having a network. So from there, kind of the idea initiated for Oahu Fresh, which is the CSA model that we'll probably talk more about later. But it was when the farmers market was first getting started at the Blaisdell Center. So this would have been the summer of 2009. And thought this was going to be the best farmers market ever. It's a downtown central location, Pauhana time. So everyone was just going to be going there and just buying all types of farmers market stuff. But when market actually opened, that wasn't the case. And it was just kind of almost like a joke, like what more do people need to support local ag and get top quality produce? Do they need to have it delivered right to their doorstep? And so my partner Lisa at the time, we kind of came up with that idea, and it was literally almost a joke. And
kind of like hand holding a little bit, like let me just bring it to you.
Yeah. But sometimes that's what it takes, and that's kind of like been our mindset from there on. It's like, if you want people to do something, you've got to make it as easy as possible for them to do it. And so kind of taking that idea from there, just literally working out of the back of my pickup truck, contacting a friend that was working in an office, and just started off with 3 to 4 people in the office and putting together a mixed bag of farmers market items and then delivering it to their office, and they were stoked. And that's kind of how it started.
So then that whole idea of then starting your own distribution service, you obviously didn't see where it was going to go.
No.
Or like that long term. And that's interesting because to you guys it was kind of this novel idea, but in reality CSA's community supported agriculture has been around in different formats or shapes. So can you kind of talk a little bit about that history? Were you even aware of that at the time? Did you know that was a common way, or maybe not common, that?
I actually wasn't familiar with the CSA model at that time. So this was 2009. And there were a couple of CSAs that were already in Hawaii. One was Just Add Water, which has been around for a while, but I wasn't familiar with the program. But we weren't really even using that term in the beginning as CSA, but more of like this farmers market delivery type idea. But then doing some research, then we kind of saw this CSA, and so we were kind of merging a couple of those things. So what I can do is definitely talk a little bit more about what is a CSA in like a general sense, and then kind of how we've twisted that model a little bit.
Yeah, because starting with the CSA, now you guys have become so many more different aspects of the distribution system. So I'm excited to go into that. We're going to take a quick break. Thanks.
Here's the deal. I'm Jay Fidel. I'm the host of Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy, which is the Energy Policy Forum's program on Wednesday. That's how we call Wednesday Energy Wednesday. We call it Energy Wednesday every Wednesday. Are you surprised? Okay, and we get guys like Jim Alberts here from Hawaiian Electric who can tell us what's really going on in energy. We want to be informed. It's so important. It's the most important initiative in our state. Clean energy is major, okay? And that's why we cover it on this show. That's the deal. What do you think, Sharon?
I think that's great. That's why we're here every Wednesday from 4 to 5, and we hope you all join us so we can hear people like Jim coming on our show and co-host Ray Starling from Hawaii Energy.
Okay, Jim, you've been here today. You've seen this. You heard what she said. What do you think?
I think it's a tremendous opportunity for people to come together and talk about the issues. Oftentimes there isn't a good forum to bring these key issues out into the public, and this is a tremendous way to go about it. And the activity of this show is essential to keep talking about energy because, as you said, it's such an essential part of our lives that we need to pay attention to it and we need to think about the future.
Okay, Ray, your turn.
Well, this is a special time in the history of Hawaii where we're making some pretty radical changes in the way we use energy and generate energy. And this show is the one place you can count on coming to every Wednesday and hearing something about the latest issues that are on the table, being discussed, that will affect us all going forward. So come join us, and if you have some ideas you want to share with us about energy, give us a call and let us know. We'll put you up here and let you talk for an hour. So come see us.
Thanks, Ray. Thanks, Sharon. Thanks, Jim. It's great to be, from Think Tech's point of view, it's great to have this show. We love the show. It's our most important show. So come around and listen to us 4 to 5 on Wednesday. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Hi, my name's Cindy Matsuki, and I host the show High Growth with HTDC on Think Tech Hawaii. This is the show where we talk about all things tech, innovation, entrepreneurship, and manufacturing, because there's so many things going on in Hawaii and more people should know about them. So this is the program that you can come and find out about all the things happening in Hawaii. And this show also airs on Olelo 54 along with Think Tech Hawaii. And it broadcasts live every other Tuesday at 3 p.m. So don't forget, check out the show Tuesday, 3 p.m. every other week. High Growth with HTDC. Thanks.
Aloha, I'm Carlos Juarez, host of Global Connections, and I want to invite you to come join us. We cover a range of global issues. We bring a lot of expert opinion, a lot of issues, whether they're contemporary events happening in the world or maybe looking at things from a more historical perspective. Global issues, very important for us to understand in this globally interconnected world. Join us here on Global Connections.
Aloha and welcome back to Hawaii Farmers Series, HFS. I'm your new Matt Johnson and co-host for today. I am privileged and honored to be sitting here between these two beautiful people. But what's the show about? It is about, discusses everything that is sexy regarding agriculture, right? Food security, food safety, and carrots.
That pretty much sums up what we've been trying to do with this series. Also, we're kind of focused on highlighting Hawaii's farmers and local food community.
And that's why we have Oahu Fresh at the table today.
Nice
Yes.
transition.
All right?
That's good.
I mean, I am so excited to be sitting here talking to you
I can
because,
tell.
I mean, I've been eating your food for so long.
You
and
have
I
been.
feel great.
Yeah, you look great.
Feel great.
You look great. I can tell. It's like, this guy's
I'm
been...
vibrant, I'm energetic, and Oahu Fresh has been doing everything. So for people who don't know who Oahu Fresh is, count of three. It is about delivering fresh, local produce to your doorstep. Is that right?
That's right.
Awesome.
Yeah, wow.
Awesome. Yeah.
I have you as my marketing guy.
What? Yeah, you can hire me.
Okay.
So I was
We'll talk about
just
that
feeling
later.
a little lonely up here, and we actually had our first tweet right before our break, and I was so excited. I just immediately invited our tweeter on to co-host.
I was outside.
So if you send in a tweet, you can come onto the show as well.
So thank you so much for coming to co-host, George. With a background in Pona Aina, the catering business, you helped start with your partner as well as your background with the Proto Hub and kind of business development. I'm stoked to have you here to kind of get to know Oahu Fresh more. And I think we didn't really have a thorough kind of introduction of what Oahu Fresh is doing now. So we kind of got started with what you guys started with, kind of this idea that you thought was this completely crazy, novel thing, and now it's kind of evolved. So let's kind of go back and let us know what Oahu Fresh kind of provides now, how it came from that CSA to there, and then your kind of vision for where it's going.
Yeah. So even before I get into that, just talk a little bit more about what a CSA is, because I still feel like that's a term that isn't widely known.
For sure, a lot of people don't know what it is.
So community-supported agriculture, it's actually a program I believe it started in Japan, and then it started becoming popular on the mainland in the 80s, and it's becoming more and more popular in Hawaii, where a typical model is that you're a farmer at the beginning of a season before you even spend any money on preparing, plowing your field, or planting seeds. You basically go out and get investors or members. And so if, let's say, Justine, you're the farmer, and George and I want to join your farm, we would give you money up front. So we pay like maybe $300 or $400, and then you would use that money to go ahead and do what you need to do to go ahead and start farming. And then as members, since we've invested, when it's time to start harvesting, we get a percentage of that harvest. So that's like your standard, typical CSA model. And there are models specifically like that here in Hawaii, like Otsuji Farm out in Hawaii Kai, Ma'o Farm out in Waianae is doing something similar to that. And so what we're doing is that we're not the actual farm, but we are a network of farms. And that's why it's kind of like a network CSA is a term that sometimes we use.
There's certain parallels that you could be brought into kind of starting your own business as far as like crowdsourcing is concerned, you know? Like, so a lot of people will use those platforms, say like you're building wallets. I'm just using an example because that's the wallet I have right now.
Oh,
that
right.
I put in $50 and then I got an amazing wallet from it, but also got to support, you know, a venture. But obviously it keeps on giving with growing and farming and stuff like that. So it's kind of interesting. I never really realized that's the model behind CSA.
Yeah.
See, you learn it. You learn
Learning.
things here.
Well,
Learning
it's
all the
interesting.
time,
I
all the
think it's
time.
really interesting that you use the terms investing and percentage of harvest, because the way I always thought of, the way I like to look at it is like, this is
Cuddles
the
and-
community supporting the farmer and like emotionally invested in the well-being of the farmer. And when, like you said, it's interesting, you know, that this idea of like a farm sourcing completely from their own farm versus aggregating from different farmers, which is interesting, and maybe that's also how you've kind of, I feel like because you have that model is maybe what kind of bled into the distribution, the wider distribution center Oahu Fresh kind of became. So if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, so as we kind of grew the CSA model, had to go and invest in a refrigerated vehicle, and we recently just moved into a new warehouse. So we have these resources that we weren't even using all the time for ourselves, and knew that there were other groups that could take advantage of these resources. So that's when we started figuring out, we're driving to say Cactus Restaurant over in Kailua. That's one of our pickup locations where you can get your CSA bag delivered to. So we're going to this restaurant and we're already ordering product from farms. So then we started talking to the chef saying, hey, we're already coming here. Are there things that we can add to our delivery that you can use in the restaurant? So that's kind of how that started working, where it just kind of made sense. Because the chef was like looking in the bags, like, wow, I want some of this. So that's kind of where we started adding on sourcing for some of the smaller farm-to-table restaurants. So now we're doing that for about 10 to 15 restaurants.
And is that their first introduction into those restaurants? I think one of the things we talk about in terms of restaurants being able to incorporate local products is like the scale of the farm and the products. So is that something that helped? Would these farms maybe have had that access without Oahu Fresh?
Probably not, because typically the farms that we're working with are on the smaller end of things, and then also the orders that we're putting in from the restaurants are small as well. So one of the farms that we work with, Kahumana Organic Farms, is out in Waianae, and then Cactus Restaurant is in Kailua. So it would probably never make sense for someone at Kahumana to drive all the way to Cactus to do a delivery for 10 pounds of greens.
Right.
So since we're kind of already doing that, and we have the delivery route, we have the van going, it just makes it easier where we can charge a small enough amount of money where it makes sense for everyone.
Right. Not necessarily easier, just really actually efficient and possible.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. And so that's really kind of what we started doing is really making those connections between the smaller farms and then the smaller, consumers. So you have individual families, the job points that we're going to for the CSA bags, and now also the smaller restaurants.
Interesting. I kind of want to talk about how it's been for you building it in Hawaii and compared to other models. You guys talked about how the original models happened and your background being outside of Hawaii. What were some of the the hurdles to overcome that were very unique to Hawaii that you think?
I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily unique to Hawaii, but I mean, there's definitely extra. I mean, everybody knows things are more expensive in Hawaii.
Sure.
And also, too, like this model of what we're doing, like CSA, we very often don't even use that term for what we do when we're communicating and marketing.
What do you use?
The farmers market delivery is a term that I like to use because a lot of times you just say CSA and you get blank stares. Yeah. So obviously, if this was happening in Vermont or California, I mean, these type of programs have been there for literally decades, and everybody is already aware of that. So there's that education process that's happening, and also working with our current customers and getting them used to just the different products that we have in the bag and all those kind of things. But the biggest challenge for us has been, as we're growing, being able to find a space. And we knew we needed a warehouse space, and finding that space that was affordable for us to be able to do what we need to do.
Space is hard to come by in Hawaii, for sure.
Yeah. And also, I mean, obviously on the rural end of things, there's encroachment from urban sprawl and rural lands, but then also we had been working out of Kaka'ako, and we know what's going on in Kaka'ako. There's a lot of development. And so we basically finally realized that we couldn't stay in Kaka'ako anymore. It just didn't make sense.
And are you seeing it that people are warming up to the idea? I mean, are people receptive to the idea of kind of farm to table produce?
People are definitely receptive to the idea. They like it, and there's still kind of that education that goes along with it. So the past couple of months, all the farms were hammered by the rains that we were getting.
Yeah.
So the availability of product has been really low. And so a big part of what we try to do, we do a weekly newsletter, is we're communicating issues and letting people know what's happening. So
I should stop tweeting Oahu Fresh, where are my tomatoes?
Yeah, we got the message. We got the
Okay,
message.
all right. Now I know. Like you're ignoring me.
Or your roommate, Matt Moore, complaining about watermelon radishes that we had.
He doesn't understand how to use them.
Every other week. Yeah.
Right. So again, that education of getting outside of the concept of buying buying the plethora of everything that's in the grocery store, thinking seasonally, thinking what's available from local farmers, which is also what you talk about with the newsletter, the education of what you can do with it.
Yeah.
And that's cool to kind of see that. And so what you're doing there with the newsletter is one process, but then, when we talk about this hub, I think that kind of works into it a little bit too. If you want to kind of talk about what that vision is.
What hub, Matt?
Yeah. So kind of the funny
Getting
shit
some
as
hub
George.
envy here. There's already one hub.
Wait a minute. I don't understand. You're building a hub?
Things
What
are
about
about
the
to
other
get
hub,
hostile. So with us moving into this new warehouse, we've now kind of moved into what we're calling a food hub. And what a food hub is it's an aggregation point that provides distribution, marketing, and even processing, and sometimes even retail for locally sourced food products. And that's what we're really excited about moving into this new space in Iwilei back in August, is now we have some more room to do these type of things. So now it's evolved much more beyond just the CSA, where now we can do more sourcing for restaurants. We actually just were talking to Castle Medical Center. They're interested in getting local food items into their cafeteria. So it's just kind of opening up a lot of these different concepts that people have been talking about, like, oh, it'd be really nice to have more local food here or there. And now I feel like we're in a position to really help make that happen. And what's also cool that we're doing too is another aspect of it is we're doing the delivery and distribution from the farm's vantage point as well. So we're sourcing for the restaurants, but then we'll also go out to the farm, pick up their products, and then deliver their products to whatever markets their products are in.
Sounds like you need another van.
Pretty soon, a friend of mine keeps telling me about an EV van that she has a connection for.
It's my life mission. I'm curious, okay, I have two questions. One, I mean, I really like this idea that when Oahu Fresh started, it was just kind of a crazy idea. But when did you start, when you started to take it seriously and start investing in this kind of infrastructure, when did you realize you may have tapped into something that Hawaii needed?
Well, yeah, it started off as a side kind of fun project to do. I was working other jobs at the time, and up until the end of 2013, was constantly doing other jobs. So it was beginning of 2014 we decided like, hey, having some success with this and getting some good response, and both from the farmer supplier side, but then also from the customer side as well. And that's when I decided that, hey, let's try and see where we can go with this. And that's when the Food Hub idea was starting to get rolling. And so that's kind of when it really started.
2014.
2014.
And then, okay, really briefly before we take another break, this idea of then moving to the Food Hub, is that something that you saw working in other places?
Yes,
Maybe
thank you. That's my question. What model have you seen that worked?
So basically what we're trying to do with the Food Hub is create a location where any farm that has product, we have a market for them to bring that product into. And the same thing for anyone who's looking for local produce, that they can come and source it from us. So that's kind of like the ultimate vision for a Food Hub. And so, yeah, there's a food...
You saw that vision somewhere?
In a dream, the same, but where have you seen it?
Well, actually, over on the Big Island, there's a company called Adaptations. And they've been around much longer than we have, and they've kind of fallen into this whole Food Hub model as well, where they've been doing this distribution basically on the Big Island, connecting farms to restaurants, and then they've also added on a CSA program. And so it just it really kind of naturally evolved just from what we were doing, and then Food Hub started to become a much more popular term that the USDA has been using, and just kind of making those connections.
Cool. That's awesome. So we're going to take a quick break and then kind of get back into, now since you've been doing this for a while and it sounds like you have more of like a strategic plan of kind of a vision of what you think Hawaii needs. So we're going to talk a little bit more about what exactly those next steps are.
Going deep.
Thanks.
Aloha, I'm Kirsten Baumgart-Turner and I host Sustainable Hawaii every Tuesday from 11 a.m. to 12 noon. My guests offer insights on challenging economic and environmental issues facing our state and offer innovative solutions to increasing Hawaii's long-term sustainability. Recently, we've been focusing on sustainable land development, food, and energy security. If you have a project or issue you'd like to discuss on the show or would like to be a guest, please contact me at kirstenbturner@gmail.com. And tune in live weekly or view the show at your convenience at thinktechhawaii.com. Mahalo.
Aloha! How you doing? It's me, Angus McTech, wishing you to welcome and join us to see us on Hibachi Talk on Think Tech Hawaii. Join my co-hosts, Gordo the Tech Czar and Andrew the Security Guy, every Friday from 1300 to 1345. We look forward to seeing you. We'll talk tech and we'll have some wee bit of fun. And remember, let your wing gang free wherever you be. Aloha!
Aloha, and welcome back to a very special episode of Hawaii Farmers Series. First off, I am your co-host, Justine Espiritu. This is our guest co-host,
Matt Johnson.
Matt Johnson.
There's only one Matt
I
Johnson.
don't have the
There's only one Matt
haircut
Johnson.
that other Matt Johnsons may have, but I'm going to try my best.
And then
this
let's just move right back into it. Our guest today is my former co-host, the former Matthew Johnson, who is CEO of Oahu Fresh. Again, we're kind of recapping. Oahu Fresh started out as a really small-scale CSA distribution system. It kind of expanded and adapted and saw what was going on and some needs in Hawaii, and has grown as this coordinator between farmers and new markets, including restaurants and other markets. And now you're kind of working on this vision of a food hub.
Mm-hmm.
So what's kind of next, now that we have the food hub and working on expanding that, what else do we need in the community to kind of
Big questions, Justine.
Coming
Answer
in
them
big.
all, yeah.
Coming in
what,
big.
what are Hawaii's problems to solve them, Matt Johnson?
well,
We
how
have
can
15
the
minutes to solve them.
how can the rest of the community help Oahu Fresh with their kind of vision, or what are you looking for?
Well, so what we're doing right now is, I was mentioned before about the concept of a food hub, where the vision is to have kind of a one-stop shop where growers have the confidence that they'll be able to sell their product. Because a lot of times you may have a farm that has a bumper crop and they haven't established a market yet for that product. And sometimes it goes to waste. They have to just toss it, throw it, compost it, or donate it, which is great, but that's still not revenue for the farm. And then also too, location when someone who's looking for a local product, whether it's a caterer, restaurant, institution, has the confidence that they can come to this hub and source items that they need. So what we're seeing is kind of the next component to add to that. We're talking about, the CSA and the distribution and sourcing for the restaurants. What we want to do next is add on processing capacity at the food hub. So just creating another market for these products to go through. So especially if there is a bumper crop, say of Japanese cucumbers, which you tend to see a lot of, instead of those being tossed, we could bring them in to a facility, and if there was a food entrepreneur, say George here wanted to make his George's pickles, he would be able to come into the hub. We would have the cucumbers coming from Kahuku in the fridge waiting for him, and then have a certified processing space where he can come in, make that new product, and then we'd also be able to help him with the marketing, the business development, and then distribution of that product.
So almost like an incubator of sorts.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So and it's kind of, once again, just creating more revenue streams and more just directions for products to go into, but then also getting beyond just the raw produce, fruits and vegetables, where I think there's a lot of potential for making different products that we may see on the shelves that we don't think of necessarily being available locally.
Okay, that kind of answered, I was going to ask, for the people who don't, or this is maybe a new idea too, the first thing that came to mind was, what's the difference between a grocery store and the food hub? But the idea that you can utilize your networks to push out bumper crops because you have those networks, and you can actually help those entrepreneurs who have ideas.
Yeah.
I like that. That's interesting.
Yeah, and so just to kind of follow up on that, so it's that more vertical integration where we're not just buying, we're not just distributing, it's that full, kind of going through the entire process
Full spectrum,
of bringing the product in and then moving it in a bunch of different directions.
Who are you partnering with? Who would you like to partner with?
So for the kitchen part of it?
For the whole food hub idea. I mean, there's a lot of people out there who are involved in food these days.
Yeah.
And, like Brandon Askew with Eat the Streets and Street Grinds. I know they're kind of thinking about doing similar things as well.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many different cool things that could grow into.
Yeah.
Who would you ideally like to partner with down the line? Public or private?
So for the kitchen part of it, definitely looking for partners, because we're not looking to do everything ourselves. We're just kind of trying to create the initial foundation. And so, yeah, that's a great example. I've been talking to Brandon and Pony with Street Grinds, where they're representing a large community of food truck vendors.
Yeah.
And they're in the process right now where the street vendors or the food trucks are looking to get more local products onto their menus.
Okay.
So it really would be, in my opinion, a great collaboration where if we're bringing in the product, as I mentioned before, for the different menus for the food trucks, and then the food trucks need to be working out of a processing type facility. So they come in there using the facility, everything they need for their menus right there, and then they can come in and do what they need to do in the kitchen.
Right, okay.
Okay, I have a question.
Okay.
So I'm glad you guys brought up actually the idea of the Eat the Streets or the food grinds. This idea that there's so many other, the entrepreneurship aspect of agriculture that's outside of just the production side of farming. And you actually are teaching some ag business classes. And perhaps those are folks or businesses that are potential partners, this idea of new businesses that need to, don't have the scale to get their own kind of infrastructure. And I'm curious of what kind of those other businesses are. We talk about like folks that kind of manage different food vendors. Pono Aina was a catering event.
Still is.
Still is, yes.
Yeah, I just walked away from it.
Just walked away. maybe if the food hub is around, you wouldn't have
Maybe.
Sounds like a whole nother conversation.
But
Next week.
can you kind of shed some light on that, of who those kind of businesses that are coming up? I'm just curious of what are, outside of farmers, who is doing entrepreneurship in agriculture?
Yeah, so a class that I teach every now and then. Right now we're doing a series at Windward Community College where it's just kind of working with people who are interested in some aspect of farming, local ag, local food. Take them through basically the business plan process where they have an idea, something they want to do, and we just kind of go through it together as a class. Just different aspects of the business, and then at the end of it, they present. So they kind of present their idea to the rest of the class, and kind of like a Shark Tank type thing that we do. We call it more of like a tilapia tank. Very,
I've
very
been there. I
low
think
key.
it was pretty mellow. Pretty.
Yeah.
Nibbles, not bites.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of interest that we're seeing. People either, a lot of times people have access to land is one example. I see a lot of people like, yeah, I just moved onto a property that has 5 acres and I want to start farming on it. Or sometimes it's the other way around where you have people who've gone through the Go Farm program, which we've been talking about before, where they're on a plot of land with UH and they're already growing and doing some different things and they just want to figure out the next place to kind of take their business idea. And so that's where it's kind of like we try to work with them in kind of thinking about it from the other way, from a different direction, thinking about it from the market perspective first. Where can you sell your product versus, I really want to go out and grow cilantro. I just love cilantro. And then sometimes you see that happen when you go and you grow and you do all the work and it's like time to sell it. And it's like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to go to the farmer's market. And then you hope people come by and buy your product. And you may or may not get a return on all that work that you just did. So I like the idea of working with the restaurants or working with a CSA or working with a food hub where you can actually have all of your products sold in a sense before you even go ahead and plant anything. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of going back to that CSA model, but even a little bit differently where you may have that relationship with a restaurant. Because restaurants, stores, I just had a meeting with Foodland a couple weeks ago. They're all looking for locally grown products. Mm-hmm. So a lot of opportunity. Cool.
So we only have 2 minutes left. Oh. Well, I'm curious of what else would we need to see, we have this idea and you want to increase the business. What about any kind of formal analysis of what the need is?
Yeah.
Does that exist for Hawaii in terms of, we're trying to encourage people to produce more, consume more, but
we're
if
talking
we have
food security here?
I think food security. So that's kind of interesting thing when we talk about we need more food locally grown in Hawaii, but I think what we have to do first is really identify what does that mean. I think it means different things to different people, especially when you say food security as well. Whether it means having food available because there's people going hungry, which is definitely an issue. But then also people talk about, 85% of the food is being imported into the state. How do we reduce that number?
Or if we're trying to build up another business sector, outside of tourism.
Exactly. So what I think needs to be done is we just have to identify, what are we trying to do? So having this kind of foodscape, kind of a food production model, what's currently being grown, and what is being brought into the state. And that's really hard to do. You talk to the Department of Agriculture. This is no weekend project type thing.
Yeah.
Who are the players in the public sector that are helping out with this?
What's that?
Who are the players in the public sector and the state level who are helping out with
We will have to talk about that on another show. Unfortunately, we have reached the end of today's show, but obviously,
we're going to do another round.
Oahu Fresh has kind of started in the community. I think has opened a lot of doors for collaboration and partnerships, and I think it's going to be real good.
We'll be back next week. I have so many more questions.
So join us again every Thursday at 4 p.m. Thank you, Think Tech, for giving us this format to discuss. Thanks.